Tim, I have a question about God and awareness. Is God actually in the things, or is he in the spaces between things, or is he in both or neither, or what's your opinion?
If we're looking at God as being something, you know, like for example in India, a God, there's the creator God, there's the Vishnu, there's the operating God, Brahma, there's the destroying God, Shiva.
I think that's the wrong way round. I think it's Vishnu that's the operator and Brahma that's the creator.
As you like. Whatever. These are entities that exist in awareness. So awareness was there before them, maintains them while they are, even though they might be over enormous periods of time, and is there after them. Awareness pervades vacuums. Awareness pervades inside atoms. Awareness is in your dreams. Awareness is in every state. God is in awareness. Awareness not in God. God is in awareness.
That's a bit of a distinction, isn't it?
Yeah, so the totality of everything, every phenomenal thing on every level is within awareness and pervaded by awareness. In Hindi, it's called Brahman, Param Brahman. Brahman, all there is Brahman. Everything is Brahman.
It's also a hat.
The devil is Brahman. Christ is Brahman.
Muslim, in Islam, it's a hat.
What does that mean?
The same thing that you just said.
Okay, well, as I don't know that, I can't comment on that. But in your question, you're asking, is it in the spaces or is it the things themselves?
Yeah.
The things themselves are seen to be empty. And what they're full of is Brahman. What they're full of is awareness. So you see everything as completely empty. And you realise that any meaning that anything has is given by you.
I get that.
And we know this because we can see ourselves doing it, but also we know this because if anything had inherent meaning, we would all get it the same, because it would be emanating its inherent meaning.
So we're just constantly giving meanings to everything that doesn't have meaning.
Yeah. And
nothing has meaning at all.
And that's why there's two kinds of meaning.
Right.
One kind of meaning is the meaning we invent, which from our psychological selves, from our intellects, so far as it has developed, which is factual and conceptual in thought. We ascribe meanings to things.
A lot of our ideas.
The other meaning,
well.
let me finish, the other meaning is when you put everything down, put your mind down, put your analysis down, and just be with what is, you will then come into the all-pervading absolute meaning, which is just, it is what it is. The meaning is what is here. And when you allow yourself to fuse with it, your intelligence develops such that clarity is there, and you start seeing things as they actually are. And therein is the meaning.
So humanity has wasted a lot of time on creating God conceptions, really.
Yeah, no, because if you think about it, in the absence of recognising who we truly are, which banishes fear, which banishes suffering, we invented gods. And although the invention of gods has caused enormous suffering, 250 million people have died in the Abrahamic religions over history, but also people have got great succour and support and moral guidance from inventing gods. And also there's a whole other aspect, which is that perhaps a soul floating through time and space after many lifetimes, I'm saying perhaps, gathers light, gathers light, gathers light. And perhaps there are beings that have gathered unimaginably vast amounts of light.
Perhaps you're one of them.
They're still... No, I'm talking about mega, you know, I'm talking about gods.
I was being facetious.
Okay, very nice. So I took that one. So perhaps this is what happens, and ultimately they're not real.
No?
No, because they're phenomenal. They began, they gathered, they peaked, and they end. In the Vedic scriptures, it talks of, you know, like someone who spends a lifetime gathering energy as a human may go up to, when they die, not liberate, but go into a plane of where they just exist, spending that energy for a very, 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 very long time.
Does it run out then after
And
that?
it runs out.
Oh dear.
And then they have to come back. And according to the Buddhist kind of traditions, you can go from being in a God plane for an immense amount of time and come back as a dog.
Good God.
Because you didn't break through.
That's really scary. To think you could do that amazingly well and then drop back down again.
Well, the thing is this, if you get scared and just leave it at that, then that scariness just goes into supporting your notion that life is dangerous, so I should stay hidden. But if you get that scary feeling and take it to a place of, you know what, I am this close, I can taste it, I can taste that I'm about to emerge out of a dream, because when you sleep, sometimes you know you're waking up. Sometimes somebody slams the door in the room, somebody turns over in your bed and nudges you, and you're still in the dream, but also you've got awareness of waking reality beginning to infringe into your dream. And it's like that now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can't you feel something? So use that fear to
taste the
drive you
honey.
through.
I can taste the honey, but I want to be the honey and taste the honey. I think that's what Muji said.
Well, what he was saying
Not
was,
me.
he was saying, we taste the honey, but sometimes we don't want to be the honey.
Yeah.
And that equates to a Buddhist idea where there is what's called different levels of people. One is like someone who's a stream entrant. And so, first of all, you come and see this stream. You see this stream of consciousness. You see the flow of awareness. And you submerge yourself in it and feel its bliss and feel the clarity and feel the peace. But then you come back into the realm of the mind in identifying with your persona, suffer some more, and then come and taste again. But then the next stage is you surrender to it. You decide, okay, I'm now going to put down my persona. I'm going to summon my courage and become the self that I am. I abandon myself to the good Lord and put in whatever name you want. I surrender up into this selflessness of the self. I come into pure being. And then that flows out into the ocean. And then, in the Buddhist terms, then there's somebody who comes back one more time, and then somebody who's never going to come back. But so it's tasting the honey, being the honey, putting your foot in the river, and getting yourself out there and just abandoning yourself. So that kind of process, which happens in time, can fully dissolve you. And while you're alive, really, really enjoy the fact that you're dead. Which is like a sort of a weirdness.
Isn't it great that it's all really about enjoyment?
Yes. This is the key. So the fear aspect, which is often used, you know, like if you see like Tibetan Buddhism, quite often there's a lot of fear involved to get you motivated. But actually it's a beautiful enjoyment. But if it's just enjoyment for the self, it's not quite as great as when you've got an element in that you actually have got now enough space to be able to consider the welfare of others authentically. A lot of people appear to consider the welfare of others, but under close examination and scrutiny it turns out that it's actually not very authentic. It's really more about them getting something back for being that way.
Nearly always.
But it is possible to have authentic care about your brothers and sisters and situations.
Does that make you a revolutionary in some way?
If there was a revolutionary who really did have space within enough to care for other people, then that revolution would win. That revolution would happen, that revolution would be successful.
So would you say Mandela's and Gandhi's revolutions didn't really happen?
No, I would say the opposite. Clearly, Mandela, you know, I've read his book, you know, I was alive all through that, and, you know, felt him and actually had an eye to eye with him in real time in New York when he had his ticker tape parade. So he was in a vehicle coming up, whatever it was, 42nd Street, I happened to be on the corner, and it stopped, and he looked down at me, and I looked up at him, and he has a really lovely smile, a lot of light and love in his eyes.
Why do you think there are so few great men like him and Luther King, and there aren't very many of them, are there? Not really. There are a lot
Compared
of
to
very
what?
Well, there are a lot of very prominent politicians who make a terrible mess. There aren't many that have done great things like Mandela and Gandhi and Luther King, are there?
Well, your awareness of history is as good as mine, probably better. But the point is that there's greatness in you.
Yeah.
Do you recognise that? This
I
is
wouldn't
not
compare
talking.
myself to
This
those
is not
people.
talking about the ego.
No.
You should compare yourself. In
Okay.
fact, what Nelson Mandela said was exactly that.
Yeah.
Don't put me on a pedestal and think, oh, isn't he great? Recognise that you have greatness within you.
Yeah.
Now, most people, when you say that, they go, oh, no, no. I would never say, no, I would never say, you know, I'm a Mandela, no, or a Gandhi, oh, no, you know, not me, right? But actually what they were saying is, the greatness is not a quality of the ego.
No.
The greatness is
You've
inherent
dissolved the ego.
quality of the self.
Yeah.
Become the self. And there is greatness. And actually, you say that, oh, isn't it true that there's only a few great people? And of course that comes out as obvious, but in actual fact, closer scrutiny reveals that a mother, the way a mother might look after her child, might manifest that greatness that keeps the bond of humanity and this wheel of ongoing stabilisation in humanity going. Somebody working in a shop, the way they treat people could be considered great. Someone doing a mundane job could be considered. It's not what you're doing, whether you're moving masses or just giving something to one person once, but it's that part of you that's in operation.
So
and that all adds to it.
You might just do one thing in a lifetime that actually almost justifies that lifetime, or makes that lifetime a successful lifetime.
The only thing that makes a lifetime successful, from my point of view, is if you realise the self.
But you have to then share that, surely, to make that mean anything.
Just realise the self, because that in itself is going to send a blessing every direction.
So you could sit in a cave and never see anybody ever again, and it would still be benefiting humanity.
Yeah, there's two views on this, right? In the ultimate truth, that is what the great saints say. Like Ramana Maharshi. The best thing you can do for the world situation right now is become the self and be that.
I believe that's what Mary Magdalene did in a cave.
But there's another view, which is, you know, I tend to think like, well, you know what? With all respect to Ramana, that was kind of like back then, and right now, in this dream of the world, shit is hitting the fan multiply. We are in a shitstorm, and nobody knows the full magnitude of just how much corruption and greed has perverted life on earth for human beings. We've even forgotten what the possibilities are.
It's a very dark period in history.
So in this case, I like the idea of enlightened revolutionaries who are taking action to create specific changes in the real world.
So you do have to engage with the so-called real world.
There's no having to.
All right, but you can't.
Do you feel?
Sit in your
the
cave,
point is, the motivation
is
is everything. Do you feel called to? If somebody who felt called to sit in a cave goes and takes action as a revolutionary, not going to work out great. If someone who is called to be a revolutionary goes and sits in a cave, that's not going to be great. So it's all about who you're being in the doing of whatever you're doing that determines how it's going to come out.
So it's not more kind of important to be sitting on the grass verge at Balkan protesting against the fracking than it is to be sitting as a realised self down Tesco's on the, you know, at the supermarket.
If you're sitting anywhere as a realised self, that's good. That's good.
It would be great,
And in the meantime, stop those frackers.
You can't be in two places at once, though,
You
can
can.
you?
I can be sitting on the verge of Balcombe, practicing my internal inquiry, and stopping on fracas.
Mm.
So in that sense, you can be doing
No,
both
I
at the
get
same
that.
time.
I get that.
It's not about where you are. There isn't a lifestyle.
People still have to make a living, don't they?
Yeah, you do that by breathing. It comes automatically. Everything comes as you need it.
Yeah.
There's no.
So
No
we
one
should
can
have
say.
no fear that
No
we're
one
black.
can say. No one can say. Oh, I really love the idea of self-realization, but because of my circumstance, I can't this time. No.
Yeah, we'll put that one off till another
You know,
lifetime.
incredible people you meet who have come through incredible stories.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, God, how did you do that? How that's just amazing that through all that hardship, you crystallized your diamond, and now look at it. Amazing. So there's no particular circumstance that's ideal. You know, it's like, well, perhaps except sitting with a master who is self-realized. Perhaps that's ideal. You know. But even if that opportunity doesn't arise, you're in it all the time. So it's much more to do with, like, are you in contact with a part that really recognises the possibility that there's something more than you talking to yourself? That your persona, that your personality, that your psychological self, there's something even more beyond that.
And when you do start to wake up to that, it gets incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
Even if your life is pretty shit.
Yeah. Then it doesn't really matter what's happening, because you are feeling an unfoldment and a seeing that is absolutely exciting, as you say, thrilling. You know, thrilling to be alive. Then gratitude starts to flow, and your heart becomes properly cleansed, and you put down your personality, and you're just literally a sort of a place where gratitude happens, where peace emanates.
But you don't necessarily put down your pain in the process, do you?
Yeah, put it down. Put it all down, for goodness sake. You don't get any points for carrying your pain from moment to moment. Oh, you know, my partner died, right? And to show him how much I love him, I will grieve for the rest of my life. I will not allow my heart to blossom and flower again.
That would dishonour him, wouldn't it?
Well, you know, it depends who you were being in the doing of it, but it's not the best way. Don't bring your pain into another moment.
I wasn't really talking about emotional pain.
Recognise that you can put it down.
I was talking about a physical pain that you can't make go away.
Well, you know, if you think about it, when you're asleep, it's gone. So that pain is not, no pain is constant.
It can very often rob you of sleep for a very long
I'm not
time.
saying when you're not asleep, I'm saying when you're asleep. So no pain is constant. And pain can be seen in different ways. And shifting how you're seeing the pain, or shifting who you're being that the pain is, will transform your experience of it.
Are you saying the pain doesn't mean anything?
Well, it has no meaning. It is simply sensation, like everything else. You might ascribe to it meanings. Oh, I've got this pain, so it's some karma that I'm now having to deal with from another life. You see, then you could meet a Rinpoche who comes up to you and says, yes, and that pain you've got, right? Don't finish my sentences, Rosie. Don't try to imagine what I'm saying.
Well, it's quite hard to get a word in edgeways sometimes.
The Rinpoche may come up, right? And he'll say to you, so you're really suffering under this pain, but the Rinpoche will say to you, yeah, you know, you did all this bad stuff, but because you're having this pain now, this intense, it'll all be over. So next life you'll be liberated. So suddenly he changes the context of the pain.
You can be grateful.
So then, you're doing it again. So then you're feeling like, wow, you know, this pain, I'm making spiritual progress, because I've met people like that. They kind of are grooving on the pain because they have this belief, but actually the pain is completely empty.
So that belief is wrong too.
It's not wrong. It's just a belief. But if it helps, this goes back to the original question, if it helps, well,
but should we have beliefs just because they help, even if they're not true?
If what?
Should we have beliefs just because they help, even if they're not true?
What we really want is to be belief-free.
Yeah, exactly.
And we want to be knowledge.
In knowledge.
No, we want to be knowledge.
Be knowledge, yeah.
We want to be knowledge. Recognize the self as knowingness.
Mm-hmm.
Not I am looking at something, but I am that.
Mm.
In the absence of that, we need beliefs to shore up our psychological self, which is all well and good.
So they're crutches. Beliefs are always crutches.
Yeah, they're a function of the mind. They're not a function of the self.
Are they necessary though?
Only when you're not the self.
Mm.
When you're the self, what do you need to believe in? You're seeing the true nature of everything.
Mm.
It's self-evident.
Mm-hmm.
It's
obvious.
You don't need. That's the one place where you don't need the support of beliefs or concepts. In fact, to be there, you have to put that down. But what a relief!
I think it was Buddha that said that there are three things that are obvious: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Is that what he meant?
Sounds good to me. I don't know how the sun and the moon get in there, but you know, and sometimes,
they're pretty obvious, aren't
sometimes the least evident thing is the self. But yeah, it's all. All statements are equally true.
I've never quite understood that.
Well, it means this: because there's no truth in any. All statements are empty, like every other thing is empty.
Mm-hmm.
Then what you get from that is given by who you're being that it is. So you could say, for example, God is bad, right? And then all that makes that is just empty until you give it a context. And then you create context. God is bad because he's caused so many people to die. So there's a context, now you can say how it's true. God is good,
yeah.
Right? And then, why? What's the context? Oh, he made the flowers, the birds and the bees. So
he gave me a new car.
So, exactly. So you've got a context. So the actual statement is just empty until it's provided with a context. Mm-hmm. So there's a context you can make. Everything's equally true. Mm. Everything is equally true. So the trick is, in what context is it true? So you meet someone who makes a statement, move away from right and wrong, and investigate and inquire into what is the context within which that statement is true. How is that person holding those words such that it's appearing as true for him? Mm. And there you get everybody's wisdom. You take that approach, you can have everybody's wisdom. Because you're not hanging on to being right and defending a position. You're free of that. So all statements are equally true. So what the Buddha actually meant that day, I don't know. And also with the Buddha and all great teachers is that they give instruction according to the level of the awareness of the people that they're speaking to. So who knows who he was speaking to that day?
Exactly.